On the evening of December 25th, 2009, in Manhattan, New York, Shele Danishefsky had just finished celebrating Christmas with her two kids. The next couple of days, Shele prepared to celebrate New Year's Eve with her family, but things took a sad turn when she was found dead in her bathtub at Dorchester Towers apartment building on the 31st of December 2009. The initial investigation found an accident to be the cause of Shele's death, and the case was closed. However, a few facts about this apparent accident didn't sit well with some investigators, who decided to get to the bottom of why a young, ambitious woman was found dead in her home. A decade later, it would be discovered that Shele didn't die by accidental death, but was murdered by someone who once claimed to love her. This is the case of Rod Covlin, who got blinded by his greed and went to extreme lengths to access his wife's money. In 1998, 34-year-old Shele Danishefsky was living in New York and pursuing her career in financial advising. Shele had a kind personality that was difficult to ignore and had the ability to instantly catch people's attention with her graceful aura. Another fact about Shele was that she was extremely ambitious too. She had studied marketing in college and started working in New York's financial sector soon after graduation. Her hard work and commitment to her profession eventually helped her become a successful financial advisor in New York, with many high-profile clients. Everyone who worked with her or had her as their financial advisor knew Shele as someone who knew how to get things done quickly. While Shele was doing extremely well professionally for a woman of her age, her personal life was a completely different story. Despite being in the second half of her 30s, Shele still hadn't found a life partner yet. Shele had achieved a lot in her professional life and knew it was time to focus on her personal life and start a family with someone who understood her ambition and her values. Shele was actively looking for a life partner, and fate finally found her one in February 1998. She attended a Jewish singles party in a bar called La Barbat, located in the Hell's Kitchen neighborhood of Manhattan. It was an event organized for people of the same faith as her, so the occasion couldn't have been more suitable to end her long wait and find a life partner. So during the event, Shele met a 25-year-old man named Rod Covlin, and it was love at first sight. In fact, it was more than that, because just a few hours after meeting Rod, Shele called her sister Eve and told her that she was on her way to Las Vegas to get married to Rod. Although her sister convinced her at the time not to rush such an important decision in her life, that didn't end the special connection between Shele and Rod. Shele and Rod had an 11-year age difference, but it didn't bother either of them, and a few weeks after the singles party, the couple got engaged. Both Rod and Shele had told their families about their partner and how amazing their bond was. The engagements ended up working, but the first 5 years after they broke up were fraught. There were so many times where she was 7 months after meeting each other for the first time. In September 1998, Rod Covlin and Shele Danishefsky got married in a happy ceremony attended by their friends and family. In 2000, 2 years after getting married, the couple welcomed their first child, a girl whom they named Anna. During the early years of marriage, the bond between Rod and Shele grew stronger, and they became inseparable. Since both of them were Jewish, and Shele had been brought up in an Orthodox Jewish community, it made the couple very active in their local Jewish community. Things went well for the first few years, but after that, differences started to arise, and both Rod and Shele realized they didn't have as many things in common as they thought when they met and married in 1998. Shele, being a hardworking woman, kept climbing the career ladder and became senior vice president for private wealth management at UBS. As for Roderick, he was completely opposite to his wife. He had initially tried to make a career as a stockbroker, but when he couldn't succeed, he decided to live off his wife's money. Shele wanted her husband to be successful like her and even funded a couple of his ventures, but due to Rod's lack of interest, both the businesses failed. Having a husband who couldn't become as successful as her was still acceptable to Shele because she loved him, But things started to change when Rod developed an obsessive passion for backgammon and gambling. Rod won a few games initially and decided to earn money through it. He would go on day-long trips around the country to participate in different backgammon tournaments. When home, he would spend hours playing the game to get better at it, but that wasn't the only problem. Over time, Rod had also secretly started looking for women to date on different websites and social media platforms. He was so into it that he once contacted nearly 40 women on Facebook in a single day, most of whom were backgammon players he had met during different tournaments. At this point, backgammon mattered more to Rod than anything, or anyone, including his wife and daughter. To make things worse for Shele, he had also started having sudden anger outbursts, which made his wife believe that he was bipolar. Shele's bad time wasn't ending, as she got pregnant with twins and lost both of them in a premature delivery when one baby died in the womb and the other died shortly after birth. The doctors told Shele that she wouldn't be able to conceive again, but the couple wanted another child, so in 2006, Rod and Shele resorted to an egg donor and welcomed a baby boy named Miles into their family. Rod had slowly become so toxic that he frequently reminded Shele that because of her, they had to use an egg donor to get their son. But he didn't stop there, and later even told their son that Shele wasn't his biological mother. In 2008, exactly 10 years after they had met and married each other, Rod and Shele's marriage was damaged beyond repair. Things had gotten messed up to the point that Rod even asked his wife for an open marriage, which made an Orthodox Jew like Shele disgusted, and she immediately rejected her husband's idea. But this didn't stop Rod from his streak of infidelity, and he joined JDate, a Jewish dating website, under a fake name, James Early. Rod had become so toxic that he didn't even hide his affairs from his wife. By January 2009, Shele was completely fed up with Rod, his anger issues, and his infidelity. She even told her sister, Eve, that she was scared this could lead to something bad for her and her children. In April 2009, Shele decided to live separately to avoid issues with her husband from affecting her children. But Shele didn't want the children to be separated from their father, so she leased an apartment across the hall in the same building and asked Rod to move in there. The couple tried to make the new arrangement work, but soon things got worse. Within a month, Rod forcefully moved his stuff back into Shele's apartment. By mid-May 2009, Shele knew her marriage couldn't be saved and filed for divorce. This forced Rod to move back to the apartment across the hall, and things slowly started getting back to normal for the couple. Shele now put her full focus into work and continued with her successful career. Since she and Rod had officially separated, she also started seeing other guys. She was once again a happy woman who was thriving in her personal and professional life. Shele's progress didn't sit well with her ex-partner, who decided to make her life a living hell. It was in the later years of their marriage that he put up spy cameras in the hallway and even installed spyware on her computer to monitor all her online activities. But he didn't stop there and tried to get Shele fired by falsely complaining to her boss that she was using drugs and was also draining their joint account. When in reality, Shele used only $800 from the account, compared to Rod, who had withdrawn $7,200 since their separation. Rod's attempt to get Shele fired from her job failed because her boss was already aware of the situation. A day before her death, Shele had received a keratin treatment and was told not to wash her hair for the next 72 hours. It raised a question: why would Shele decide to take a bath when she wasn't supposed to wash her hair for the next 3 days? Rod had also told the investigating officer that he had pulled Shele's body out of the blood-stained water, but his shirt was without any stains when he was sharing details of the incident. Detective Rod Armel didn't do a full forensic search of the crime scene because he wanted to wait for Shele's autopsy to be released first. Unfortunately, that didn't happen because Shele Dent's ultra-Orthodox Jewish family was against it due to their religious beliefs. After this, Detective Rod couldn't do much in his investigation, and the case was officially closed, and they couldn't really move forward anymore. But then the case was officially sealed. The news of Shele's death had shocked everyone close to her. However, like Detective Rod some of Shele's family and friends were also suspicious about the cause of her death. Eve, her sister, revealed that Shele didn't like taking baths and always preferred taking showers. One of Shele's friends, Stephanie Goldman, also agreed with Eve's statement and had said that Shele never even took a short bath. Eve said that Shele never even took a short bath. Even after her burial, many members of Shele Dent's family suspected that she was a victim of cold-blooded murder by her ex-husband, Rod Covlin. The suspicion soon turned into a firm belief when Shele's estate attorney, Lance Meyer, informed the family that Shele was scheduled to meet him on the day of her death to remove her ex-husband from her will. The reason for the increasing number of fingers pointing at Rod Covlin was simple. He stood to get $5.2 million in the event of her death while he was still in her will. In light of these new, shocking details, Shele's family approached the authorities and requested them to reopen the case and continue with their investigation. Detective Rod and Detective Francis Brennan, the two lead investigators in the case, informed the family they couldn't investigate Shele's death further because the case was officially closed. The detectives also told the Denk family that the only way to reopen the case was if they allowed an autopsy of the victim's body. However, that was out of the question because of their religious beliefs. When the police refused to help them without an autopsy, the family took matters into their own hands and hired a private investigator, Michael Swain, to get to the bottom of Shele's death and Rod Covlin's role in it. So there's a lot. When a police officer asked who Rod Swain was, he finally told them about himself, to which he responded, "Pretty good." When Michael Swain visited Shele's apartment, he noticed that the screws of the cabinet hinges had been pulled out by design, and someone like Shele, who had a lean build, couldn't rip off the hinges even while falling. He also noticed that there was no bath towel in the bathroom, which was quite unusual because, according to Rod, Shele had gone to the bathroom to take a bath. 2 months after Shele's death, her family agreed for her autopsy to be carried out. On the 1st of March 2010, the authorities got the order of examination from the court, and Shele Dent's body was sent for an autopsy. When the autopsy report came back, it was found that Shele's hyoid had been fractured, which was a common sign of strangulation. In light of the new revelations, in April 2010, Shele's cause of death was changed from accident to homicide. However, the investigation team had to wait for 2 more months to get a search warrant for her apartment. When it came to interviewing the people who had seen or interacted with the victim during her last few hours, Melissa Shields, Shele's friend, was the first person to be interviewed. Melissa told the investigators that she had met Shele a few hours before her death and sensed something was wrong. Upon asking her friend about it, Shele told her she felt her ex-husband was following her. When Shele Dane's ex-husband, Rodri Cavan, was called in for an interview, he refused to cooperate with the authorities. Upon checking his emails and phone records from the 30th of December 2009, it was found that he had been in contact with a woman named Deborah O. from North Carolina, who was married with 3 children. Deborah was a backgammon player Rod had met during a tournament. They both had started an extramarital affair, and Deborah had even visited Rod in New York on the night of Shele's murder. Rod and Deborah played backgammon until 1:03 a.m. before Rod left to do some work on his backgammon federation. At 4 a.m., Rod sent Deborah a text and told her he hadn't done any work because he had fallen asleep. The apartment building CCTV cameras showed Rod leaving the building at 4:13 a.m. He came back a few minutes later and gave the doorman a Snickers bar, which was very out of character for someone who was normally antisocial. Shele's time of death had been estimated to be between 1:25 a.m. and 4:25 a.m., and that was the exact time window when Rod wasn't in contact with Deborah. When Deborah was interviewed, she only had good things to say about Rod and didn't provide anything that could lead to charging him with Shele's murder. Due to the ongoing investigation and murder case filed against him in 2011, Rod was barred from accessing the money Shele had left him in her will. His children were placed with his parents because of Rod's custody battle with their maternal uncle. Soon, his parents found out that Rod had been stealing from the children's college fund, which resulted in violent arguments. Rod took a total of $84,000 from the children's college fund and spent it on trips with Deborah, participating in different backgammon tournaments. Due to his increasingly violent behavior, Rod's parents banished him and Deborah from their house. Infuriated, he decided to kill his parents, get his children, and Shele's money back. He came up with a number of different murder plans. Quote, "I had the right music, I had the number plans, I had the numbers," end quote. End quote. Initially, he thought of poisoning them by getting Anna, his daughter, to mix the poison in their tea, but he soon dropped this plan and decided to sneak into the house through the basement window, kill both his parents, get his children, and set the house on fire. A couple of his plans also included Deborah, whom he had shared everything with. But she refused to become part of any such plan and asked Rod to drop those ideas too. While Rod was busy trying to find a foolproof plan to get rid of his parents, the police were looking at different aspects of the case to find credible evidence against him. When Rod realized he might be close to getting arrested, he tried to frame his daughter Anna for Shele's murder. He drafted a false confession in Anna's email account in which she had said she pushed her mother in the bathroom, which resulted in her death. According to the fake email, on the night of Shele's death, Anna had an argument with her because of her going on dates. By 2014, Deborah had also become terrified of Rod, and the pair started growing distant. Rod eventually broke up with Deborah, which turned out to be a huge mistake because Deborah soon contacted the authorities and told them everything she knew about Rod and his plans over the years. The police now had enough evidence against him, so Rod Covlin was arrested on November 1st, 2015. The arrest was made just 2 months before the end of the 6-year wait imposed on him by the court, which would have given him access to Shele's $5.2 million. Besides her statements, Deborah also provided hard drives full of data from Rod's electronic devices that indicated that Rod killed his wife to gain custody of the children. As a result, Rod Covlin was charged with second-degree murder in 2016, and his trial began in 2019. A 12-member jury heard testimonies at the Manhattan Supreme Court in New York. The prosecutors argued that Rod always wanted to get rid of Shele. It was just a matter of when. The prosecutors also argued that despite all the evidence against Rod Covlin being circumstantial, he was the only person who had the motive to kill Shele. Which Patricia Swenson, one of the key witnesses and Rod's former girlfriend, told the court that during a trip in August 2009, Rod got extremely angry when talking about his ex-wife. She also said that he repeatedly said during that trip he wanted to kill Shele. As the trial progressed, more and more damning evidence against Rod was presented in front of the court. And the only piece of evidence that bothered to save anything about her was that her car memo from that year, still in her car. Despite his lawyer's attempts to portray him as innocent, the conclusion of the 8-week-long trial saw the jury finding Rod Covlin guilty of murdering his ex-wife, Shele Danishefsky. On April 10, 2019, the court sentenced Rod Covlin to 25 years to life imprisonment for murdering his ex-wife. Rod Covlin later appealed the court's decision, but the appeal was rejected. He is currently serving his time at Attica Correctional Facility in New York.